So I just finished my first ever playthrough of the original Assassin's Creed, and in this video I'll be breaking down my thoughts and experiences with the game. This video will be spoiler free aside for some basic story setup. If you're considering playing or replaying this game yourself, at the end I'll be giving my recommendation to buy or pass on AC1. Keep watching to see it all. What's up everyone? Big Dan here. I make videos about RPGs like Fallout, Mass Effect, and Dragon Age. I explore hidden scenes, rare choices, lore videos, guides, and reviews like this one. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos. Without further ado, let's dive right in. 2007 was a big year for gaming. A boatload of pivotal titles were released that year, including Halo 3, Mass Effect, The Witcher, and of course, Assassin's Creed. Unfortunately, I missed the boat on a lot of these games back in 2007, but after recently getting into the AC franchise with Valhalla and Odyssey, I decided it was high time I checked out the games which started it all. So buckle up and get ready for a journey into Assassin's Creed 1. Without spoiling too much, you start the game as Desmond Miles, a bartender who's been kidnapped by a pharmaceutical company and forced to relive his ancestors' memories through a Matrix-like device called the Animus. So you're dropped into the simulation as Altair, member of an elite brotherhood of assassins in the Holy Land during the Crusades era. I really like the aesthetic for this game. It's kind of magical. Because you're technically in a simulation when you're playing as Altair, everything is bathed in this bright white light, and you occasionally see glitches in the Animus. It's pretty cool. At the beginning of the game, your master tells you there are 9 men you need to assassinate in 3 different cities: Damascus, Acre, and Jerusalem. I instantly connected with this master character, mainly because he's voiced by the same guy who plays Duncan in Dragon Age Origins.
The Grey Wardens were founded during the First Blight. We are nothing if we do not abide by the Assassin's Creed.
Normally I break down these reviews into things like side quests, exploration, and main story, but Assassin's Creed is laser focused in its gameplay and scope. There are no side quests in this game, just a handful of optional objectives and collectibles in each region. There's also no loot, no money, and no inventory management to speak of. You can't even bang anybody in this game. Assassin's Creed is really focused on one thing: assassinating the targets of the Brotherhood. The gameplay loop of the assassination missions is largely unchanged throughout the course of AC1. You start by traveling to the city of your choice and finding the local Brotherhood HQ. There, your contact will give you some ideas on how to study your target. The next phase is gathering evidence. You'll need to complete a minimum of 2 to 3 investigations per target. These are mini objectives that include things like eavesdropping, pickpocketing letters, beating information out of randos, or completing challenges for fellow Brotherhood members. Along the way, you'll run across opportunities to save citizens and scholars from harassment by the guards. This basically involves killing the guards with the game's janky sword fighting system. Completing these optional objectives will give you access to scholars and vigilantes. Scholars allow you to blend in and pass by guards without notice, giving you access to parts of the city you might not otherwise be able to reach undetected. Vigilantes will accost guards for you on sight, allowing you to escape more easily or cut down the guards while they're distracted. Once you've gathered enough evidence, you can return to the local HQ and begin the assassination mission. From here, it's up to you to find a way to reach the target and take them out without being detected. Most of my assassinations were pretty rough around the edges. Whoa! What? That was like, what? I really wish there was an option to replay missions from the part where the assassination is already unlocked, or reload checkpoints to try again. First playthroughs of stealth games are often the roughest since you don't have a good idea of the level layout or the best routes to get a shot at your target. Once you assassinate your target, you get a brief expository cutscene before returning to the Brotherhood HQ to report your success. Since all of these assassinations happen in public, you'll need to frantically escape from the guards after completing your assignment. This usually means parkouring your way onto a rooftop and finding a box or a haystack to hide in until the guards are off your tail. Speaking of parkour, this is one of the things that Assassin's Creed is most known for: rooftop traversal. The parkour in AC1 is pretty good, but it does kind of feel like a first draft, which Ubisoft would go on to refine in subsequent games. It takes a little while to get used to the controls. When I got into a flow state with the parkour, it was a lot of fun. However, more often than not, I found this flow state gets broken by the unpredictability and overall jankiness of the parkour systems. Sometimes Altair will make a graceful bounding leap between buildings. Other times, he'll plummet to the ground over distances that you swore he made it over in the past. It can also be difficult to tell what is actually climbable when parkouring.
No! Why?
Sometimes Altair just gets kind of stuck where he won't climb even short distances over windows or other objects, even if you've scaled similar surfaces in the past. It's these kind of quirks that prevent parkour from being as satisfying as it could have been in the game. Social stealth is another big part of Assassin's Creed, moving through crowded streets to avoid guards and prying eyes. Moving through the city can feel like a game of Tetris at times, as you'll need to be careful to avoid bumping into people carrying breakable pots or boxes, thugs looking to pick a fight with you, shovey lunatics, and persistent beggars. All of these characters can lead to snitching or fights that attract attention from the guards and inevitably combat. Speaking of which, the combat in Assassin's Creed is pretty rough and janky. It's very defensive in nature. Enemies will parry about 90% of your sword attacks if you attempt to strike first. So the most effective strategy is to wait for the enemy to attack you, parry their strike, and counterattack with the counter kill ability. Counter kills in AC1 are pretty funky. Sometimes Altair will do a flashy finisher move after a successful parry, but other times he'll just punch the guy in the stomach, leaving them to get back up and continue fighting. Altair, buddy, this move is called counter kill, not counter punch. What's unclear to me is whether these animations are randomized or whether they're based on player input and timing. When you're out of combat, you can sneak up on unsuspecting enemies and assassinate them with your hidden blade. This was always super satisfying when I managed to pull it off. You can also use the hidden blade in combat if your enemy is knocked back or otherwise defenseless during the fight. Finally, you'll have a small stash of throwing knives which you can use to take out enemies from a distance. This next part is pretty nitpicky, but I gotta talk about it. In many respects, AC1 has a terrible user interface. The controls in this game take a minute to get used to, not because they're particularly difficult, but because Ubisoft decided to invent its own language for the control scheme instead of just telling you what buttons to push. So you've got an I, bitch slap, feet, and no bitch slap. Now you might think these correspond to triangle, circle, X, and square because of the layout, but you'd be incorrect. The controls from the PS4 controller didn't map properly for me on PC, so I had to spend a few minutes remapping the buttons in the settings screen. So here's one of the tutorials. Press no bitch slap button 1 for a low profile kill, or press and hold hood guy button 5 and press no bitch slap button 1 for a high profile kill. What the fuck does that mean? Translation: press square for quiet assassination, or press R1 and square for non-stealthy kills. Why couldn't they just say that? I think it's telling that most of the community guides on Steam are about how to get your controller to work properly with this game. Even the process of quitting the game is not intuitive. In most games, you just go into the menu and press quit. Not in Assassin's Creed. In this game, it's a 4-step process to quit the game. Step 1, press start and select exit memory. Watch a loading screen. Step 2, select exit animus. Watch an animation of Desmond getting up. Step 3, press start and hit quit game. Confirm your choice by hitting yes. Watch a loading screen. Step 4, press any key. Select your profile. Select exit and confirm your choice by hitting yes. You've now quit and closed the game. Who thought this was good design? Did anyone at Ubisoft look at these menus before shipping the game? But nitpicks aside, with persistence, I eventually got accustomed to these UI quirks, learned the controls, and started to get the hang of the gameplay. Ultimately, Assassin's Creed was an experience unlike any other I've played recently. It was fascinating and somewhat magical exploring Altair's memories and uncovering the storyline in this game. But the most important question of all is this: is AC1 actually fun to play? At the end of the day, despite all of its good qualities, I honestly didn't have that much fun actually playing this game. The investigation sections got boring very early on, the swashbuckling combat was tedious and unfun for me, and the parkour was more often frustrating than it was satisfying. Even the assassination missions left me feeling empty because more often than not, they descended into complete chaos before I even had an opportunity to take out the target. I really wish there was an option to replay the missions in AC1 so I could get a second chance at a stealthy approach. There is an option to restart memories, but it drops you at the beginning of the chapter where you have to redo all the boring investigation stuff again. Hard pass. Just when I felt like I was really gaining some mastery over the game's controls, mechanics, and enemy AI patterns, the game was over. AC1 only took me about 12 hours to complete. Now, I don't have a problem with short, focused games, but this one just didn't click with me. I feel like I would need to do a second playthrough where I really had total mastery of all the mechanics to fully enjoy this experience. Unfortunately, the content in the game isn't fun enough or strong enough to make me desire a second playthrough. I'd honestly rather replay all the Hitman games or move on to the Ezio trilogy than do a second playthrough of AC1. While I appreciate what Ubisoft did with this game and how it set up the franchise, I ultimately didn't enjoy it that much while I was playing. A lot of AC fans recommend skipping the first game and starting with the Ezio trilogy, and now I can see why. Ultimately, I can't really recommend AC1 myself. It's very much a product of its era, and I found it difficult to enjoy by modern standards. So there you have it. I played Assassin's Creed 1 for the first time in 2022. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more Mass Effect and RPG videos. I also have a bunch more reviews and RPG videos, so why don't you check out another one, like this one I've linked on the screen. Shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.